Hello and welcome to episode 41 of the Movie Bros podcast. We are your hosts, Duncan and Hayden. I'm Duncan, he's Hayden. Hello, hello.
Welcome back, everyone.
And if you are returning, thanks for returning and listening to more of our, super interesting conversations. If you're new, this is two brothers who pick a movie, watch that movie, discuss it, ramble about it, and banter and all that jazz. We cover kind of everything, historical epic, romance, horror, action, thriller, sci-fi, fantasy. I guess I would quantify the movie we're about to talk to as sci-fi?
I mean, it's definitely science fiction.
Yeah,
It takes place on another planet. There's
in the future, yeah, that's true.
weird scientific stuff going on, sort of.
Sort of. So, and if you are curious about like what we're watching either next, or if you want to look back on any episodes or anything, this podcast is available on Spotify if you're listening to it there, or YouTube, which is a new one, or Amazon or Apple if I did it correctly. But it's also, we post on Instagram at @themovie_bros. You can always check us out there if you want to leave a comment or anything. But the movie we're referencing is Mickey 17, which was released this year. Every once in a while, Hayden and I try to actually go to a movie theater. So no, we do not have our normal page or whatever of notes. This is going to be a little bit more off the cuff. We literally just got home to our respective houses. So we'll see how this kind of plays out.
Yep.
And I can't obviously speak for Hayden, but maybe these are obviously initial reactions. Our opinions may change the more we actually sit with this and think about it. But either
Well,
way,
I mean, I
that's
don't
what
know. I kind of sat with my opinions on like the half an hour-ish drive home. I think
Sure. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, granted, it's still fairly early out the gate, but I feel like I've kind
Yes.
of solidified my opinions, I think.
Okay. So that's what we're talking about, folks, and that's kind of what this format is. Obviously, there's gonna be a little couple sections here and there of that we kind of break out the podcast with, but yeah, let's just kind of get into it, Aiden.
Well, we're going to run down some information first. This is obviously, as we say, Mickey 17, released this year, this month, trying to be relevant and current. Written and directed by Bong Joon-ho, who recently won some Oscars and is just a well-known writer-director, done things like, Snowpiercer, obviously Parasite, The Host, lots of things. I don't have down who did the cinematography on this, but I did feel like it was decent,
It
although
was
nothing to write
decent. It
home
wasn't
about.
like amazing, but it was decent.
This stars Robert Pattinson, Stephen Ewan, Naomi Ackie, Mark Ruffalo, Tim Key, and Toni Collette. There are other background characters and actors, but they're not really that important. That's kind of your main players.
Yep.
As we say, this might be more of a off the cuff, more
Loosey-goosey.
loosey-goosey episode, if you will. So that's kind of all I have for information. Do we want to dive in, or do we want to? Where would you like to start?
I think we're just gonna. I think this is just gonna be some random stream of consciousness from both of us, but I wanted more Steven Yeun. I liked him a lot actually, and I just feel like he was a little underutilized.
I think in a weird way, I think everyone outside of Pattinson was a little underutilized.
Well, granted, the movie is just. I mean, it's his movie, but I do kind of agree.
Like, everyone is just okay in their role outside it. Like, he's playing two roles, sort of. He's
Sort
playing
of,
both
yeah.
Mickey 17 and Mickey 18. So, sort of the same person, but different kind of personalities. And he does great. I just feel like everyone else is just kind of there. No one's standing out in any real way.
Yeah, for a like sort of ensemble cast, it's like Mark Ruffalo trying to be the like
Let's just be honest, he was being Space Trump, and that's okay.
yeah. I was like, without
And
inherently
that's
saying
fine.
yes, he was trying to be
That's
Space
fine.
Trump.
And I kind of expected that because it's Bong Joon-ho. He does lots of
Topical
political
stuff.
satire and
Yes.
social stuff. I mean, again, look at stuff like Parasite. Look at stuff
Mhm.
like
Oh, yeah.
Snowpiercer.
It's I don't know if it was the writing or I don't know if it was Mark Ruffalo specifically, but it didn't feel.
Well,
It felt a little flat. I did
I
kind of
think
I
a
kind of
bit of
liked
both.
Tony. I like Tony Collette as his, like, kind of whisper in the ear, weirdly obsessed with sauce.
What was that? Like, that was I mean, again, granted, there are weird things in all of this director's movies. What the fuck was that? Why was she obsessed with condiments?
Well, think of having the same food for 4 years on a spaceship on the way to the snow planet. That's
Sure.
that's how you put a little spice in things, and I think the director was trying to make the especially that couple, both of them be a little off center of normal
Well, I mean,
as
yeah,
the, like, these
they
are political
succeeded
figures.
there. I just I don't know. I think everyone outside of Pattinson falls a little flat for me here. Like no one's like obviously bad, but no one's obviously good.
Yeah, and it's definitely a little I think it's because it's maybe more mainstream American made compared to his previous stuff, but
Well, yes.
it does feel off from the director's previous movies.
Well,
I will say, like, I think maybe it was slightly misadvertised because
oh yes. Oh yes.
there is there
It's
is
not
some
it's not funny.
there are a couple bits that were actually quite funny, but generally, no,
Like I
I think
mean,
it's misadvertised.
like I think I chuckled twice. It's not humorous. I just don't think it's like funny in the way that the trailer makes it seem. It kind of reminded me of the whiplash I got when we watched Banshees of Inisherin. Because yeah, there's some conversational humor in
Mhm.
that, but it's not like funny.
No, no, not at all. I feel like they could have chopped up a little bit of that 3rd act and then sprinkled in more humor towards the front end, because really the humor you're gonna get is from the deaths of him, which they ran through pretty quickly.
And that's I think my biggest frustration in this is that all the
Ugh,
trailers, all the posters, like I mean, they're really selling you on the fact that oh, we're going to derive comedy from Mickey
his death.
17 literally dying over and over again in outlandish sci-fi, centered
And they did
ways,
that
and
somewhat.
they did it in a flashback and it took maybe 10 minutes.
Like, the bit where, like, they I don't wanna say spoilers, but, like, I think it might have been even in the trailer, but, like, when he gets his hand chopped off and it's just floating by.
Yeah, again, that was funny.
Yes.
But then like
It did
they
get a
do
little
start you off with Mickey 1. But then they catch you up to Mickey 17 really quickly, and then they don't really do a whole lot more shenanigans with that idea. It seemed weird to
not
me.
really. I feel like they also they jumped around time-wise a lot, and it wasn't sometimes it wasn't inherently clear
No, especially
is
towards
this
the end.
present? Especially towards the well, again, the whole 3rd act, I feel like they could have chopped up a little bit differently, but and that whole dream
Completely unneeded, take it out.
granted, that was maybe not even 5 minutes, but still, it didn't really need to be there.
I do wonder that I mean, obviously, I mean not to shock anyone, but the guy's name is Bong Joon-ho. I wonder if this was not written in English first and then it was brought to America later because I would believe that this was intended to be released in Korea with Korean stars because I feel like some of the dialogue choices and some of the acting choices I think just feel more like bad translations
Hmm,
sometimes.
maybe. I hadn't really thought
Like
about that.
I think a lot of Mark Ruffalo's character feels that way to me at least.
Well, I think they're well, A, maybe that, but B, I think they're, again, also still trying to lean into the, like, very blunt, short-sentenced,
Yeah,
quote, unquote, Trumpism of I mean, the caricature that I think they're trying to go for.
kind of sort
Like
of.
even in the first couple of minutes when you're like, "Oh, is he wearing fake teeth?"
Like it was weird that I spotted that, like, within the first time he comes on scene, like, his teeth are weird looking, and they're not like
They're
weird,
not
like, giant horse teeth, but
no,
there's
that's the thing, like,
something weird going on.
there is something weird, but it's not like the huge, crazy teeth that, like, Rami Malek wears in Bohemian Rhapsody.
No.
But yes, there is something just a hair off.
So, if there's something I could say, like, positive because I didn't dislike all of this. I think that it does a great job of posing a lot of like possibly
Mhm.
interesting ethical questions.
Which that's the what I
But
think that's
then
one of the main things the director does well in all of his movies is like, "Oh, this
he
shit could
does.
happen," kinda
But then
thing.
on like the other side of that sword is in this one, they don't really follow any of them out to an interesting conclusion. Like they have the whole, oh, are having two clones, is that ethical? Should we kill clones? What does it mean to really die? What does it mean to have personhood if you can download someone's memories? And they don't really ever explore any of those avenues and just kind of wrap it up with a bow on the end saying, oh, cloning bad, we blew up the cloner. Eh,
Yeah,
from a writer and director who has done infinitely more like complex and interesting plots, I was just surprised that there were so many instances like that, and then they weren't explored.
agreed. But what did you think? I don't even know if I noticed music at all, but I'm sure obviously there
Um,
was music in it, but I never really noticed, to be honest.
so
And
there
sometimes
was
that's
some music.
good for music, and sometimes that's not so good for music.
I feel like especially the third act would have helped with more noticeable music. Like there was a lot of incidental stuff, but it
Mm,
wasn't like I couldn't hum you the theme.
sure.
There was a lot of melancholy piano, and there was a lot of I hate to say this, but it sounded like AI generated action music towards the end, where if you weren't listening for it, you wouldn't even notice it was there. But I think it probably would have helped to create a more interesting mood pretty much all the way through if there was music with more of an identity.
The more and more I think about this, though, like I was pretty with it at least till like the halfway point, and really it's when they stopped focusing on the duplicate side and more on like, oh, these aliens that we might have to kill, or they like
Yes.
if they kind of almost switched storylines. Like
This
it
feels
was
like
less
two
and less.
movies smushed together.
Exactly. So I feel like if they just focused like because that was what was both funny and interesting was the Mickey
Was
stuff.
yeah. It's in the title. It's literally what you're there for. And then like two-thirds halfway through we switch and say, oh, actually the story is not about that anymore. Now it's about we need to be humane to these giant woolly pillbug monsters. I mean, fine, but make that the whole movie.
Yeah,
Don't bait and switch me
you
with
could have
something
gone one
else.
or the other and probably would have been fine. Yeah.
Yeah, well, he has made a movie called Okja, which
Oh yeah, I know of it.
have you seen it?
I haven't, but I know of it.
So it does kind of that one to me feels like it delves into the meat industry morality aspect
Sure.
that the second half of this movie kind of tries to touch on a lot more, and I think it just goes
Hmm.
to show that I don't
This
know. I just
doesn't.
well, no. I think it goes to show that this director and writer can absolutely reach that level of like complex storytelling, but it really needs to be focused in on one thing.
Do you think? At first, I was kind of against his voice.
It was rough to get used to, but after a while, I was just fine with it.
Yeah, I was fine with it, but then once Mickey 18, the non-loser version, was a little bit more of a gruffer.
Yeah,
Again, it almost sounded like his Batman voice.
I did think that. I'm like, oh, Batman in space. I
Yeah,
could be down for that.
so I'm actually glad that there was some sort of distinction. Because yes,
Yeah,
obviously they did other things throughout to like make sure people knew who was who, but like I'm glad there was a little more subtle differences. I
sure,
liked
sure.
all the times where they cut to him getting printed out, and it like as a regular printer, he got had to get shoved back in a little
That
bit,
freaking cracked me up every time where he's like being like inched out and then it has to go back in.
or they forget all they forget the rollers all the time, and he's just falling onto the floor
Yep,
constantly.
yep.
So again, there was funny comical bits, but again, I feel like they could have just leaned one way or the other. That's really my main qualm with it.
It feels like to me they got all the comedy out in like the first third to half of the movie, and then the
Hmm.
rest of it they just never went back to that tone, which fine, but that means you need to go hard with the other tone you're doing, and it didn't feel like they committed. I did enjoy that. At least, I mean, we have mentioned before that the cinematography here is not bad. It's just nothing to write home about. but
Mhm.
color-wise, this movie's great color-wise, like,
Oh, yeah.
from, like, the way all their outfits are colored so that it highlights against the teal of the ship's metal, and you have the bright orange of the lava bit showing up here, like, it looks really nice. Um, I also liked the design of the big woolly pill bug things. I thought those were kinda cool looking because you instantly knew what they were, but they
It was
still look a
interesting
little bit
design,
unique.
but
Yeah,
I don't know. I feel like they just weren't
but they
needed.
weren't that interesting.
No.
Like, again, I think again, we now elaborated on a couple different times, this feels like 2 different movies. It would have been so much better if this was just wacky, slightly unethical hijinks about cloning, and we
Mhm.
didn't even touch the giant pill bug aliens.
Yeah, I 100% agree. The chain like, the mob hit chainsaw, oh, and their, like, macaroons. I
Oh,
see, again, that's
that was
fun
wacky.
but that's what I was like, "Oh, yes, this. I want more of this."
Yeah, because again, that's like the opening. It set it up. That was funny. Well, it's just like the whole bit where he's in that huge escalating line and he's signing up for
Mhm.
being expendable, and the girl's like, "Are you fucking serious? Do you know what you're doing?" He's like, "Yes," and the voiceover's like, "No, I didn't read it at all." That was funny.
I felt like they were gonna do something when he kept talking about, like, the way that chick smelled, the red-haired girl. I thought they were gonna do something with that,
So we see a brief flashback, and
of
it's the
his
same
mom.
actress playing his mom,
Mhm.
and so I think that's the connection they thought we were gonna make more readily.
Hmm.
But to have a whole semi monologue about it in the beginning and then just not really pay it off later at the end of the movie did feel weird.
What did you think of his girlfriend?
So I think that actress does fine. I mean, I think her as a character is kind of funny, but she is more of a plot device than an actual character.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Like, I mean, again, that actress is, it's not her fault. It's the way it's written, but she
Sure, I've
doesn't
seen her
do a
in other
whole
things
lot.
that I do like.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I couldn't place her off the top of my head. In fact, I'm gonna quickly look that up because I know I've seen her in other things that I like. I couldn't remember what they
She
were,
was
though.
in this show called The End of the Fucking World. It was a limited
Oh, she
series
was
on
also
Netflix.
in, unfortunately, The Rise of Skywalker, so that's not great. But she was
Oh,
also in
yeah,
that, Blink Twice movie with Channing Tatum.
which I've actually heard fairly good things about, but I
Yeah.
don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, she was fine. I again, I do wish her character there was more to it other than, hey, I want to have sex with as many different Mickeys as possible, because that is kind of what she does for like 2/3 of the movie. That's her only motivation.
Yeah, she's a big Mickey fan for sure,
When we first sat down in the theater, I mentioned to Duncan, I really hope this doesn't give us
which
Mickey
they
on Mickey
sort of
action,
didn't.
because this feels like the kind of setup and the kind of director to be like, "Hey, this is commentary on blah 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 blah. Here's Robert Pattinson, fucking Robert Pattinson." I'm so glad that didn't happen. We got very close. I'm glad it didn't happen.
Likewise, I'm glad they did not go down that route, even though, again, in the first couple minutes, they did jump pretty quick to a, like, light sex scene. So I was like, "Oh, no, if they're doing
Yes.
this, then that's coming."
Well, I thought actually that was a fairly good humorous scene, even though I'm not laughing at it. I thought it was a nice juxtaposition of him and the girlfriend having sex,
Yes. And then Mark
while
Ruffalo being like, "No more
Mark Ruffalo is
sex."
having his rambling speech about why we need to not have sex to conserve energy. I thought that was fun.
And that would I mean, that again, not something I would have even thought of for like, oh, how many calories and things are you burning doing different tasks? Like, that came
Yeah,
up more than once, so
it was mentioned in passing a couple times. It's, again, explore that idea more. It just, I don't know.
what would you rate this?
Um, I was pretty disappointed, just across the board. It felt like a drug. Felt like it was too many competing ideas. Only Robert Pattinson was really all that good. Writing was strange. To me, this is a solid 2 out of 5. I don't know if I would
Wow.
recommend it. Maybe you can blame the trailers, but I thought I was getting something else. And the thing that I ended up actually receiving wasn't all that good in my opinion.
Okay. That's fair.
What did you
I
think?
I gave it a solid 3 out of 5 because, again, I said I more or less liked it. I did not love it. Obviously, there's definitely some things I would change. I'm glad I saw it. I don't know if I need to re-watch it anytime
Yeah,
soon.
I'm glad
Um,
I saw it too because I feel like if I hadn't watched it, the marketing being as interesting as it was, I would have always kicked myself thinking, oh, what did I miss out on? So at least
and,
now I
like,
know.
for the most part, I did like Robert Pattinson. I did like the little bit of, Steven Yeun, that I saw. There were there were bits and pieces of Toni Collette and bits and pieces of Mark Ruffalo that I think worked well, but maybe not overall as a whole. Obviously, that whole 3rd act, they probably could have just gotten rid of, but yeah, I'd say 3 out of 5. Like, not horrendous, but definitely not like, that's a C? C plus?
Yeah, I
Something
think
like that?
I'm hovering around a D just because the first quarter of it I think is enjoyable. I just don't love the rest of it.
Fair, fair. Uh, because we saw this in theaters, maybe just to pivot, I'm trying to think of what we saw trailers for.
Well, since this is sort of a horror-ish movie, they paired a lot of horror movie
They
trailers with
did,
it.
which I thought was I didn't see this as a horror movie, but
Well, to be fair, I do think this is at least advertised why it is kind of a violent science fiction movie, so I can see the logic.
which is weird because like, the movie itself is just not like, there is violence that happens, but it's
Right? Like it's rated R, but and there is blood that happens and people swear, but I think you probably could have done this movie PG-13 and lost nothing.
yeah, I mean, I'm glad that it's not PG-13, but I don't think it would've made the biggest difference, no. What we saw, let's see, the woman in the yard or whatever, the front porch chick
The woman in
looks
the
bad.
yard looks bad. Every time I see that trailer, it just makes me think, ah, we're greenlighting anything these days, aren't we?
Mhm.
Because
F1 looks fucking fantastic as always.
F1 looks pretty damn good.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
very excited. What else did we watch?
Until
There's
Dawn,
Until
I
Dawn.
don't, I don't, I as the resident horror fan here, I'm cautiously optimistic about that. I think the games are pretty good and have a very interesting concept, but it all comes down to whether or not it's executed well here, and I
Sure.
want to wait to see more because it feels like it would lend itself to be a good movie premise wise, but all comes down to how much quality they want to put into it.
Mhm. I can see that. I feel like there
Uh,
was something else.
Death of a Unicorn. I think we have a very split opinion on whether or not we actually want to watch that.
Oh, I don't think that's gonna be good at all, dude.
It looks like fun to me. I'll probably
I
watch that
think
in
that's gonna be
theaters.
shit.
Oh, you don't want to have fun. Come on.
Well, one of my friends who is a listener, uh, they said, "Oh, when you guys do your ratings, are you just from your gut rating, or is this like you are rating like, oh, the cinematography, the lighting, the casting?" And I was like, "Well, there's a little bit
Um,
there where I was doing that, but like that way it's not just like, oh, because again, I feel like some movies we might rate higher because we enjoy them, but it doesn't mean they're actually like if you enjoy that movie, Death of a Unicorn, but
oh, I
would you
mean,
still
I think a
would you
great example of that is I rated Emperor's New Groove very highly when if I actually looked at it critically, it's probably not that good.
yeah, that's just something to kind of think about because I'm like, well, yeah, I can go into a lot of movies expect with like super fucking low expectations and probably have a good time, but that doesn't mean it's like I should probably rate it that high though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think I mean I made the effort to try to not read any reviews about this. Mickey 17. I mean, I didn't look up any blurbs or
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
didn't.
try and look into anything about it. So I think I went in with a fairly middling expectation. I guess. I mean, obviously I saw the trailers. That's about it.
Well, I did. It's not that I looked up anything, but the people I know who saw it, I got all kinds of different like reviews. So I was like, this might. I don't really. I mean, even though I had backstory, it was one of those. I had so many different opinions that it was almost like I had no opinions about it. Um,
Well, have you watched anything recently you want to expand upon?
Let me look real quick. I didn't even think about that. Let's see. Well, today, because it was, this crazy thunderstorm, I watched Robin Hood, the one from 2018 with Taron Egerton and
That is super forgettable.
Jamie Foxx as Little John. It is
Yep.
really not good. Really
No.
fucking not good, dude. I watched The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, all 3 hours of Sergio
Fucking
Leone.
incredible movie. Love
It's
that.
I even told the parents this, like, because it's the 3 hour movie. I said, okay, I'm gonna watch 1 hour one day, 1 hour another day, and 1 hour a third day. That way, it's not
Sure.
just, oh, I'm sitting here. But I ended up, because it's so good, I ended up just watching the whole thing. It's that good.
It's so good. Like,
Yes.
god
So
damn, I wish Hollywood still made like westerns of that caliber. It's so fucking good.
I rewatched Hercules from 1997.
Oh, I haven't seen that in probably 20 years.
Well, that was my thought. I was like, I've probably seen this before, but I remember so little of it that it's almost basically watching it for the first time.
Sure.
It's okay. I don't,
I
maybe it's just because it
remember.
wasn't like my like favorite animated movie from the time, but I'm like, it's some of the songs don't really hit, although I can definitely see a younger version of myself thinking Meg is like a
Oh,
total fucking babe,
oh,
which she
yes.
is.
I have very strong memories of that movie scaring me as a child, and
Really?
I think it was the way that they animated the hydras because it was like early 3D animation. This came in now in 1997. I think I probably saw it a couple years after when it was like on VHS. So I'm probably under 10 years old. I just remember being unsettling to young me, and it just always stuck in the back of my mind that they were creepy looking. But
That's
again,
probably fair.
I have not seen it in 20 years. Perhaps I am wrong.
Danny DeVito is great as his like Hercules' coach.
Yep. If they ever decide to make a live
They could
action version,
still have him be it. Yes,
which I hope to God they don't, but again, don't recast him. Literally, just put him in fake fawn legs and he's ready to go.
pretty much. Yeah, that's more or less everything I watched this last week. Obviously, folks, if you're listening, or even if you're not listening, if you've tuned out by now, I also do a solo rant ramble called Dunk's Movie Corner, where I just basically do exactly what you just listened to the last like 2 or 3 minutes, but I do it every week. It's what I watched in a week, either TV, limited series, or movies. So I'd say check that out. It's more of a companion podcast to this, but anything you watched or looking forward to watch that we haven't discussed prior, Hayden?
I watched a movie from 1951 called M. It was
Okay.
it was a noir crime movie. It stars Peter Lorre. It's a Fritz Lang thing, and it's all in German, black and white. I genuinely loved it. Absolutely incredible movie. I would recommend you try it. It's super super good. I would love to see it be remade. I think it has a really interesting plot of where there is a child like abductor and murderer that the police can't catch, and so the police in turn decide to start stepping up pressure everywhere. The leaders of the criminal underworld come together and are like, hey, this is hurting our business. We need to catch this guy first since the police can't. And so it's like two different sides both trying to figure out the same mystery at the same time with different methods. It is super really really good. Long, it was like 3 hours, but it was really really good. Love everything except the ending because they left it kind of ambiguous.
Okay. I mean, I'm fairly certain I've heard the title before somewhere, so I'm pretty sure it's a classic for a reason, perhaps.
Oh yeah, I mean, I totally picked it just because I thought the poster looked cool. It's got this like Art Deco like gnarly hand reaching out of the shadows with an M on its palm. Just thought that's
That's
cool
cool.
looking. What is
It's dope.
this? Yeah,
I've definitely picked movies that way where I'm like, all right, the poster sold me. It's not just like uh like the heads of all the main cast. It's actually
yeah. It's
interesting.
it's it's not just Marvelitis.
Yes.
And then I also got to finally watch the Looney Tunes movie,
Oh
which
yeah.
I had a blast. I mean, it's a Looney Tunes movie. It's a little silly. It's a little stupid. That's kind of the point. The hand drawn animation was super nice to look at. I thought the jokes were funny. The physical slapstick was good. It just, why in the world, if you're Warner Brothers, wouldn't you market this movie more? It just blows my mind.
Was
Yeah,
the theater empty?
it was me and a family of little kids, which was nice to see, you know.
Oh, okay, that's kind of nice.
But again, I loved it. I will probably watch it on streaming. I thought it was great. And then I think I mentioned this last week, but I have my tickets for the re-release of Pride and Prejudice, April the 26th or something like that. But also coming out next month is the re-release of Revenge of the Sith, which I think we should go and watch.
Yeah, I would be interested in that for sure. I gotta figure out timing and stuff. But yeah, I'm down.
For sure, for sure. Well, do we want to move on to Icebreaker Audio?
So icebreaker audio is basically we pick a question that you might hear at a new job, or if you're going to a new school or something like that, or just out in public if you're trying to have semi-meaningful conversations with people. And we started doing this at some point. I don't even remember when.
I
To
think
make
Logan Lucky.
it was around there, yeah. So it's been 20, 30 episodes. Jesus Christ. It's just for you listeners to understand that we're not just random people that talk about movies. We're actual, human beings with opinions and feelings and emotions. If you have suggestions on questions we should answer, you can also leave that as a comment as well.
Well, our question this week is what is the, I mean, we come from the generation where this will still apply. What is the first CD that you bought yourself music wise with your own money? And would you still make that purchase today? And has your music taste changed?
With my own money CD,
Yes. Yeah.
um, I bought two CDs at a concert when I was like 16, maybe 17. It was Mighty Mongos, which is a like
Oh, no shit.
sort of pop punk ska
Yeah,
band.
I was going to say, it's kind of Scottish.
It's ska-ish, like not inherently. Yeah. So went and saw them at the Showbox.
That's
Uh,
fucking cool.
oh, it was very cool. Was in the I was in the pit there for a bit, just getting thrown around. Yeah, just totally out of my fucking element as like a 16-year-old kid.
I'm
Uh,
surprised they let you in. Isn't that like a 21 and only thing? Because I've been to the Showbox.
I think it was the show itself because it was them, Real Big Fish,
Sure.
and maybe Suburban Legends. I don't remember either way. But I went with God, what is their name? Um, I think it was Dylan Holt, Morgan, and my
That
friend Ryan.
that
I
would make
think
sense. Like I can see Morgan doing that.
that's. I mean, yeah, obviously it was like years ago, but um, I think that was the first CD bought. Although, really, the only other like I feel like I kind of jumped over CDs as like a medium, and I know you have a ton, and that's like your thing.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But I don't know, like the only other CD that I had and I listened to pretty consistently is at some point someone got me the soundtrack to La La Land, and it was the only CD in my car until, of course, the car fell apart and I sold it with the CD still in the car, which is kind
It's
of a bummer. But
it was still in the car?
yeah, I didn't think to pull it out.
Oh
I was pretty
no.
bummed. But of course, obviously now that there's,
Spotify.
yeah, which hey, we love some Spotify here on the podcast that helps facilitate releasing this for free.
Well, do you think your music taste has changed since then? Do you think you would go to that concert today?
Oh, I would absolutely go to the concert. I would say my music choice has definitely just simply grown where it encompasses that, but there's a lot. Like, I think it was more of a small circle that is now within a much larger circle.
That's
So,
fair.
yes, I would definitely still go to the concert and I'd definitely have a great fucking time. But I wouldn't be like, oh, I only like ska music, or like, oh, this is my thing. I'm like, no, there's lots of other shit out there, like
That's fair.
lots of other things. So, okay, first CD, Hayden.
I think it was the Weird Al CD that White and Nerdy was big on back when I was
Oh,
in middle
jeez.
school. I think it was called Straight Out of Linwood, I think.
I don't think that's correct, but okay.
I mean it's in the other room in my collection. I could probably go look, but I I'm almost positive it was that.
Did you
And
buy it when we went and saw him in concert at the Puyallup Fair?
oh, see, that's what I was going to mention. I can't remember if I bought it there or if I bought it separately and then we went to the concert. Because I think that's what happened. Because I think I don't believe I bought it there because I don't remember going to a merch table in any way there. But I think that was also, I mean, without a doubt, my first concert. I don't know that I would buy it again now.
I feel
And
like
not that I
he
don't
was
like
of a
Weird
different
Al.
time.
Yes, he's I
Parody
know
music, I feel like, is in its own thing. Like
it is
yeah,
its
I
own
don't know.
thing, but now that it is so much, now that anyone can make it and distribute it everywhere, Weird Al is not as special and not as much of a novelty as perhaps he used to
Sure.
be. I mean, granted, he is coming back to Auburn later in August, and I'd still like to go see that. Maybe more nostalgia at this point, but
Hmm.
I don't know that I would buy the whole CD again because yeah, White and Nerdy is a fun track. There's some other things on there that are fun, but the whole album is not that great. And I think my music tastes have definitely shifted away from that. Like I'm more of a country western fan. I'm definitely more of a uh, music score classical fan. I think those are definitely my bigger genres at this point.
Yeah, I could definitely see that for you, both the country and the soundtrack. So that was Icebreaker Audio, and that was Mickey 17 prior. And yes, obviously, if it sounds a little funkier, A, it's late. B, we didn't take notes because we just came from the theater, so it's
Well,
fresh, it's
I was
authentic.
almost gonna take notes on my phone because I thought we were gonna be the only ones there, and then
Oh,
like the other
agreed.
5 people walked in.
I was kind of bummed, but that's fine. So next week is Layer Cake, potentially, which is like the breakout role for Daniel Craig, aka James Bond. So if you've
Also
never
the
seen that, check that
uh,
out. Uh,
also the breakout film for Matthew Vaughn, who would
oh
go on
yeah,
to do just a lot of
Kingsman.
I mean, yeah, all the Kingsman movies, Argyle from last year, lots of stuff.
Yeah, if you have suggestions on anything we should be adding to our list, because really I think Layer Cake was, there's a couple after it that I'm looking forward to, but there's a couple that I think I might want to tweak.
I mean, we can talk.
Sure. Let us know. This has been episode 41 of the Movie Bros. Thanks for listening, and we will catch you all in the next one.